Hi, Uncommoners. This is Drew here signing in live today with Lisa Rooney. We're going to be talking about better communication skills through Neuro Linguistic Programming, different techniques. But, you know, to get everything going, I know these are uncertain times and there's a lot that is going on in the world. And so we value you taking the time to check this out. As you know, Uncommon Entrepreneurs was started with the idea of bringing people together in the Puerto Rican community that are business leaders in different industries to break down barriers of where you originally come from and those that are of a like mind that are looking to connect and do business in a positive format and transfer skills that we each individually have and have mastered. And so what we're doing is we're going to be pivoting starting today with the Lunch and Learn series, where in a short 45-minute-hour session, you can take a break from what you're doing, check in on, you learn something new throughout your day, and also give a platform to entrepreneurs that have amazing talents to get highlighted out there, like Lisa, etc. So if you have any, we ask, you ask questions throughout this. This is meant to be interactive. Give us patience. This is our first time doing this on a live type setting. And I think you're going to get a lot of value out of today and so forth like that. So just to start, grab a notebook and a pen. This is if you're watching, you are going to gain some wisdom today that you're going to want to write down and highlight. And we're just going to do 2 breaths together to get started. So just do 2 big breaths with me to just set an intention for this and lock in and learn. So 1, 2, big breath. Excellent. So today we have Lisa Rooney. Me and Lisa go back. We got a certification together as master practitioners in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. And her superpower is helping entrepreneurs get unstuck and automating their online businesses. I know for personal experience, she has a lot of wisdom in that. So we're going to teach you enough today that you can have actual results from this training. Some of you will want to take the next step, and she does have an online e-course that she's launching tomorrow, and she'll get more into the details on that. But I have actually already signed up and plan to attend. We'll put the information below as we go through. But just today, some of the themes that we're going to talk about are going to set you ahead on communication skills, which is such a powerful tool right now. If you sit back and consider, we're all inside of our caves, inside of our homes, and needing to communicate with customers, with family, with people that we're moving the ball forward with. And if you could incrementally or exponentially increase your effectiveness in your communication skills and add 1 new customer to your business or 1 new contract, I mean, what value does that bring? So in today, I'm gonna turn the mic and conversation over to Lisa and let her share her expert skills. But yeah, welcome, Lisa.
Hey, it's so nice to meet all of you. Just put a comment below in the chat and just tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you're actually catching the replay, just put #replay. We want this to be interactive and you to be able to ask questions. So we'll hang out for a little bit afterwards and just answer any of your questions that are coming up. And really, this training is for you. So thanks so much, Drew, for having me on today.
You're welcome. Well, it's fun. So we always will. So maybe just to kind of get things starting, just to have some questions to go through. Why do you feel people struggle with coming across feeling salesy?
Definitely. What we're teaching today is how to be more authentic in selling. And a lot of people feel salesy or pitchy or spammy or icky, like they have this feeling about sales. And it's typically because it's the way that they're doing it is inauthentic to who they are. So even when we learned NLP, we learned the concept of ontology. So it's when your way of being matches your truth of being. And when we're acting out of alignment of our way is not matching our truth of being, we show up differently because we were given the standard sales script, or we were given instructions of like, okay, like do like 100 reach outs this week or something like that. Well, when you're reaching out to people and, put a comment below if you were taught to do this, like to just do reach outs to cold traffic, and you're having to come across like, hey, it's been so long since we talked, and then insert sales pitch or something like that. So that type of dialogue is not attraction marketing. It is not drawing in the people that actually are great qualified buyers to whatever it is you're selling. It doesn't matter the widget of what you're selling, whether it be houses or whether it be you've partnered with a company and you're selling their products and services, or you're selling your own products and services. It doesn't matter the widget, but if you're coming across in a way that is inauthentic to you, it is not going to feel in alignment with you. And that feeling can cause you to procrastinate in your business, just kind of drag your feet a little bit, like I have something else to do for sure, and it's really going to have you cause your own resistance just because it's not in alignment with who you are. So what if that transformed to you being able to put out social media posts or messages that are creating more authentic relationships and conversations, and you are just actually having a conversation, or you're leaving curiosity. So you're leaving it in a way on your post of like, it says in the prospect's mind of like, I think that person can help me. Maybe I should reach out and see if that's true. So it changes it from you chasing and pursuing people, which feels icky and salesy, to now they're reaching out to you, viewing you as the person that might be able to help them. And another conversation is obviously needed in between that time of them being a client and trusting you enough to say, yes, that is the person that can help me.
Well stated. Yeah. In the last 15 years of being in the sales profession, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Authenticity and being congruent, that you feel comfortable with the product that you're describing is everything, because that really comes across in your tonality. So that's good. So keeping in this line of thinking, what one common thing do you think people were taught about sales that is sabotaging their sales effort every single time?
I think that they were taught that everyone is a potential client. So go talk to the person in the line at Starbucks, or, reach out to everyone on social media, or it's just this, big mindset of like, there's like millions of people on Facebook and they're all potential clients. That is not true. And it's not true of like who you might actually want to work with. So I think it sabotages the success because you're getting no's because everyone is not a potential client. Like, it's really sitting down to define who you want to work with, who would light you up. Like, that allows you to wake up in your superpower because you're working with clients that you really want to work with, and it's in alignment with what you want to do. When you have nightmare clients, it just reminds you of like, oh, this is hard. It's getting yourself another job of like having to maintain clients that you don't want to pursue and having to pursue anyone. And even like going to get a coffee at Starbucks or something like that is awkward because you're like, should I talk to that person? Everyone's a prospect, and it's not that way. So it's really breaking down of like who your ideal client is and knowing that for sure, and being able to not have the scarcity mindset of being able to turn away people that are not an ideal fit for you. So it shifts that from, we're standardly taught in sales that just talk to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's more targeting, and knowing who you're looking to communicate with, and yeah, well stated. So transitioning, how does listening play a better role in sales?
So I think a lot of times people are talking at someone. They're not actively listening to the person. So for example, if I didn't know you, Drew, and you and I met in the Starbucks line or something like
Yeah,
that, and I had this amazing widget that I was trying to sell or something like that,
yeah,
and I didn't really like listen in for like what problems you've been having or where even the need is. And I just came to you and I was just like, and I have this amazing thing and it will wax your floors and like clean your
yeah,
house. Like if I just like pitched to you and I didn't even know where you were coming from or what an actual need was, I'm no longer like speaking to you.
yeah,
And I'm not even concerned about what your problems are. So basically, it's like a pitch going up against a brick wall because, like, you're just dumping out features and benefits when that person might not be interested in any of those features and benefits, but you're really excited about them. So you're coming across like, oh my
yeah,
God, and it does this, and it does like, put a number 3 in the comments below if you've done this,
yeah.
like insert face palm emoji, right? Like we've all done this. Like we've all just been so excited about the widget, like that we're selling and just been like verbally vomit all over someone. And it's just like features, benefits, features. And they're just like looking, like if you get that blank stare and the person's like, yeah, no, like they wouldn't find benefit in it if that was not their problem. Like it may not solve anything for them, but how do you know that if you didn't listen to what they're or actually have a conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it seems basic to cover, but you'd be surprised how often that doesn't come across. And that is such a universal concept. We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yes.
And yeah, I think you're going to be way more effective if you take time and, listen to what the person wants and make sure your product lines up with something they're interested in. Is that kind of the line of thinking?
Yeah, and I also feel like a lot of people are not active listening. So even if there is a mutual conversation, they're waiting for the person to finish their sentence to pounce.
Yeah,
So they don't even like reply to what the person said. Like the person like is still talking and you can see them like, okay, they're almost done talking and they're not done talking yet. And like, then they don't have a response that's either empathetic or understanding or whatever to that, whatever that person just said. Like maybe
yeah.
they express some vulnerability and that person is just waiting to pounce to pitch. And that is like, that's like the death of sales because
And I think a lot,
yeah, it's a
good.
missed opportunity of allowing that person to feel understood.
Yes, you're right. And sometimes when you take that approach of not listening, your words, they don't even hear what you're saying because it's so uncomfortable or they don't understand the angle you're coming from. And you're like, so they're not even processing. So they'll just automatically say no because they didn't even grasp. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely, because it is like that brick wall. Like they shut down when they like, you probably experience this even in relationships. If someone expresses their vulnerability and you just talk past them, that typically makes people shut down because it's like, okay, that person didn't even care about what I had to say or how I was feeling or whatever. So whether we realize it or not, we're always communicating. And what are we saying without saying it? Like if we're talking over someone or we're just waiting for them to finish their sentence so we can just pitch, then we're saying, I don't care about what you just said, right? So it's saying, like, what are we saying without saying it? And how can we transform that to an actual authentic relationship, which leads into this authentic selling, using different language patterns, even with the client, that enables them to feel like understood, that you're like trust is built because they now view you as the person, like, I really think that they can help me to whatever destination they're trying to get to.
Yeah, and not banging your information, your product, your service like it's a sword. You're banging it on a rock. You're by listening, you're making sure that it is the right prospect to take that energy transfer of explaining what you have. Yeah, valid points.
Yeah, and even if it's not the right client, you identify through this process that it is not the right client for you.
Yeah.
Great. Who do you know that can help them? That is like building a network of people, because this person is still going to view you as the person that connected them to the person that did help them transform, and it builds trust. And the person that you connected them to, you can probably develop a relationship with of referrals. And also, the person that's not the ideal client may end up knowing someone who is. So it's like, how can I build a
Great
network
point.
of, like they're getting what they need, and, a business connection that is getting what they need. Like, you're keeping that relationship and building it to be stronger, and viewing you as a go-to resource. So it's not just like, oh, it's a lose if I don't sell the widget that I'm selling, or the product or service or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to end there if you don't let it.
Interesting. So are you saying this strategy could allow for a no, maybe is just not now, and they could come back, and it leads to that?
It's not even that. So Drew, if I, was a prospect for you, and you got to the point of like telling me what you offer, and you identify like you're not the right person to help me, but
Yeah.
you know of someone for sure in this uncommon network of people, you're like, you know what? I am not the ideal person to help you, because I can't do X, Y, Z, but I know the exact person who can help you. So I'm going to refer you to them. So it builds their business, and it builds trust, because now this person's like, okay, I didn't just express vulnerability and have this conversation with Drew, and we've identified that we're not an ideal fit, but does he have someone else that can help me? Like, and of a lot of people that could. So you refer that person to them. And then in that person's mind, it's still, what is that saying about Drew? He still took care of me.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to end there. So if you're identifying, like, I'm having this conversation with someone who is not an ideal client, and that comes in like 10 minutes into your conversation, it's not a wasted conversation if you don't let it be. Like, you can still build a rapport and develop that relationship, and that builds massive trust, because you connected them to the person who can help, and you can build affiliate relationships and stuff with people who help in other ways. So it creates a win-win.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense. You're right, because you're treating the person as a human and respecting them, and just because when you find out that they're not the right ideal customer, if your motive changes, that so I see, if that's where you're going, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Put a question in the comments below if you want us to expound upon that more at the end, or anything like that. Like, is everything making sense? Just like engage with us down below.
Awesome. So another interesting, shifting a little bit. Why are asking right questions better? How does that improve like sales conversions? How do questions play a factor?
Yeah, questions are different than listening. So it opens up a conversation to what is actually going on with the person that you're communicating with. And this can be done online or offline. So basically, when someone presents with a problem, let's just use like they want to lose 20 pounds. Weight loss is an easy one to go to. And usually the problem that people present with is not the actual problem. Usually there's a few layers below that of why they want to transform. So if someone came to me and they're like, I want to lose 20 pounds, I'd be like, well, how is the 20 pounds a problem for you? And it allows them to tell me what they're feeling, because people usually purchase on a feeling space and trusting that you're the one that can help them transform, because people just don't want a process. They don't want a system. We were taught in marketing to use all these like cutesy, like throw a name on it that's unique and it's your system or something like that. People don't care about the system. They care about the transformation that they're going to receive. So when you can extract from them through the right questions of, what they're going through, how is it a problem for them, and really get this intimate understanding, now you're getting into a feeling space with them. And it's no longer just active listening to an answer that they have. It's really getting down to the root cause of the problem. Why are they showing up? Usually, even with this weight loss example, it's usually, okay, I want to change because I don't fit in my clothes. And okay, how does that make you feel? I don't feel confident. Like I can't walk into a business meeting and blah, blah, blah. Like, so now we're getting down to, it's actually that they're not showing up feeling confident. Does lack of confidence affect every relationship you have? Does it affect your income? Yes, it's been known to. Does it affect like how you show up with work, how you show up at home? Like everything is affected by this lack of confidence. So now you have a different thing to speak to because you asked better questions. So there's a couple of sayings that come into play with this. It's like if someone has 1% doubt, they have 100% uncertainty with what you're selling. So how do we remove some of the doubt? How do we sell more authentically? It is actually having better conversations, asking better questions, and getting down to a feeling space of why they want to transform in the first place. Because a lot of people are like, well, I tried everything before. You need to differentiate how this is different, because a lot of people have tried a lot of things, right? You've even probably tried a lot of things, so you know where they're coming from. But how are you going to be able to speak to that if you don't ask better questions?
That's where we're on the same page. Do you have some maybe questions that you use to dig in deeper that people could take notes on and implement today?
I think it's even some of the things that we learn in NLP, Drew. It's like when someone presents with a problem, I really say, how is that a problem for you? It sounds like a weird question because you're just like, well, they just presented me with this problem. Like, why am I asking them? But you're actually trying to get further down to a root cause. Yeah. And the person is the only person who knows why it's a problem for them. For someone else, the extra 20 pounds might not be a problem for them. They're like, I am how I am, and it's not a problem for me. So the assumption of like, well, 20 pounds extra on someone's frame would probably be uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. Not for everyone. Some people are so okay with it. And this is just using a example because like that's a topic that a lot of people talk about, but it can be with anything. No matter what you're selling, someone has a problem and they usually present with the surface problem. And there's usually at least like 3 or 4 layers deeper than that. And it's just reframing what they're saying to you. So it does take active listening on the response, because you can ask another question based on that until you get to the root cause. And you can kind of tell when you got to the root cause when they're like exhausted for answers and they're in a feeling space.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that was, if you didn't write that down, I'll repeat it. The question was on point. How is that a problem for you? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
And
even
that
the
opens the door.
Yeah, even the response from that, like say if the first level was, I don't fit in any of my clothes. How is that a problem for you? Well, obviously, like, I don't feel confident. Okay. Like once you're getting down to a more feeling space, and then you're opening up trust, because anytime vulnerability is expressed, then you have an opportunity to show why you're the person to help them. I understand that. I struggled with that 20 years ago. And this is how I got through it. And believe me, like I've tried all the things. And you know what I mean? It changes that conversation and your transition.
That's good. That makes sense. In the comment section, write a question or an objection that you've dealt with. And if we have time as this wraps up, Lisa can, tell her, how she would respond to it. I feel somebody might out there have a good point on that. So any last thoughts on questions that, run in your mind that maybe the audience should know about?
I think that's, great right there. Like, it's just getting in the habit of asking better questions. And what we covered earlier is listening. So you're already going to be able to transform your sales conversations by actively listening, being understanding, and, creating a new opportunity of getting more down to the root cause. Because the surface level thing, there's a lot of people that need to change and they don't. And it's actually getting down to a root cause place that's more pressing. Yeah.
That's key. You're right. People usually will not tell you up front what is going on, especially if you're just getting to know them. And, obviously this technique is building trust because you're wanting to figure out what they really are looking for and making sure that what you have matches, right?
Right. And even the question I use often is, and this shifts the whole sales conversation, is I ask them why now is the right time for them to change. Right?
Why now is the right time for them to change?
Why is now the right time for you to change? And as we're asking that question, what objection are we negating? I don't have time right now. I don't, right? Now is not the right time. So we shifted that objection. And this is how we use neurolinguistics, is we're entering the conversation in their mind, but we're also pre-framing it to have them say to themselves why now is the right time. And it's because we asked that greater question. Why is now the right time to change for you? And
maybe,
yeah,
keep going. That's good.
Yeah, so it changes, it just shifts it. Instead of them resisting you and saying, oh, I don't have time right now or whatever, they're telling themselves why now is the right time without you having to, overcome that objection.
That's everything, right? You want to knock the objections down before it even gets to that point.
Yeah, and if you have common objections, write those down. Like, for one thing, it may be your limiting beliefs that you're projecting onto other people, but also if you're having this common thing, how can we change your language pattern to already like rephrase that in the client's mind? Because that's the art of asking better questions. Have them answer to you why it's the right time, why they're worth investing in. Like whatever the objection is that you keep getting, and you know what that is. Like, you go into a sales call with that like pit in your stomach, or like this thing in your throat and you're like, oh, I hope they don't say it. Like, you know what you get for objections all the time, and put it in the comments below what that is. And just creating this awareness around it is the first step. And then how can you shift that conversation? How can you ask them a question around it that would have the client pre-qualify themselves that it is the right time, or that they do have enough money for it, or whatever the objection is, right?
That's good. Maybe to pause a second, and when you're going through this process of the sales funnel, the key thing is talking to enough people. What Lisa's talking about today is, like, once you're in front of a prospect, how to communicate and get a higher conversion, which we'll go over even more in depth in the next few minutes. But the key thing is taking swings of the bat. An analogy, I grew up playing baseball, and if you look at Major League Baseball, if you're in the major leagues and you hit like 2.5 out of 10 times, you're in the major leagues. If you hit 3 out of 10 times, you're a millionaire. If you hit 3.5 times out of 10, you make 20 million a year. And so that these little tweaks that she's going through, just to put this in perspective, is going to bring you to that like 3.5 batting average, and you making whatever income level you want, as well as building better relationships. So the key, though, is getting out there and talking to enough people, or this doesn't matter. I think that should go without saying. Would you agree, Lisa?
Yeah, definitely. And like we said earlier in the conversation, like, it's not just talking to everyone, although we do want you to take more swings at bat, but we also want you to be able to attract better through your language patterns and through curiosity and things like that, and being less salesy and pitchy and more authentic to who you are. It's really having your personality show up, because let's face it, there's thousands of people selling what you sell, but people need you. People are buying you for the transformation because they believe you are the one that will get them there. If they already knew that was the solution, they would have already bought it from someone else. They have been waiting for you to show up in who you are, as authentically as you are, and you're the one that is the right match to help them. And so how do we communicate that, online, offline, in your email list, in your sales funnel? Like, all of your messaging and things are based on identifying who that ideal person is and what do they need to hear from you today.
I think that's critical. And then maybe to interject another reframe, just to explain where we're coming from. Lisa and I took a 16-day in-person training, and to learn a lot of these, master level neurolinguistic skills. What is neurolinguistic programming's root? It's been around for about 40 years. If you look it up online, you'll see tons of successful people have been through this training, from CEOs, business owners. Tony Robbins was essentially cut his teeth on this, and that's the backbone of everything that he teaches. The Navy SEALs, the CIA, they all take their people through this type of programming, because how your mind, your neuroscience works with your words, your linguistics programs your mind. And so you can, it all comes into what she's saying. I just wanted to throw that out there to fill in the blanks with people that are new to this terminology, and the in-depthness that we're touching. We're giving you a sliver of what was learned over the 7-day course and the 16-day course, 23 days in person that we took. So anything you want to add to that on how neuro-linguistic programming in general, what your thoughts are and its effectiveness before we go on to the next question?
Yeah, definitely. That I had been the person who had a lot of, counseling or therapy, or even energetic healing. I'm in California, so we believe in the woo, as far as Reiki and theta healing and all this energy healing and stuff like that. And I've never seen anything work so rapidly in a short period of time of being able to transform basically thoughts, limiting beliefs, limiting decisions that no longer serve you and are affecting you every day. Because a lot of things are just below the level of awareness. So it's from the unconscious mind. So the unconscious mind does what? It stores information and it files it like in this filing cabinet of like, yep, that's a like, that's a like, that's a like. Why? Because we have a million bits per second going by us, but we can only take in data in our processor 128 per second. So that means we're going through life with blinders on. Basically, like in the car, you have a blind spot. There's a lot that we can't see because it would overwhelm our brain if we try to take all of that in. So what it does is it links similar things. So if you've ever heard someone like recreate the same experience or date the same person, or like, you know what I mean? Like if they keep doing the same things in life, it's easy to pattern loop just based on the unconscious mind driving those actions. So if you even continue to attract the same clients that you do not want, or you continue to have the same conversation over and over again, or whatever, there could be your own limiting beliefs playing out in this type of thing. You know, so one of the biggest transformation things that even Drew is going to be offering in his retreats is being able to release the things, the blocks that are holding you back, and that you're not even aware that that is what is driving action or inaction. So it's such a powerful thing. Like my life has transformed. I've seen Drew transform in front of me, you know, just even working together over 16 days, like an entire life can have a new trajectory, completely new trajectory, and just releasing all the past stuff that does not serve you, and you don't have to bring that with you anymore. So whether it's like fear of judgment, like I don't want to put myself online or go live because someone's going to judge me. Now I don't care. Like I really don't care. Like I'm hoping to offend some people because those are not my people, right? You want to attract people that want to stick with you for life, want value in your message and everything like that. So, or self-doubt is holding you back, or maybe it's lack of beliefs about money. Like there's all of these areas that we could be stuck. And that's why it became my passion to help entrepreneurs, especially because I feel like us as entrepreneurs, we're the change makers, right?
Yeah.
There's people that need our service and what we have. And if we're not able to shine our light because we're the ones who are holding us back, then we're, you know, not serving that ideal client who could change. Like think about it. If you helped one person who was going to help 4,000 people this year, you indirectly helped 4,000 people, right? And it's just by freeing that up. So super powerful modalities. I could go on about that for forever, but today you're here to learn about authentic selling. So
yeah, but it's good. I think it gives a good frame of reference what you just went through, because it all comes back to the power of, like you said, we have millions of bits of information in front of our eyes and we can only see 128 of them. And so that really brings it all together. So switching back, another question I'm sure people are curious, I am, is what language patterns can be implemented to reduce objections and pre-qualify a client in their own mind?
Yeah, it was kind of even touching back on what we had just mentioned. One of the things that I usually say is, you know, why is this the right time for you? And it's starting to ask questions like that. So, or I would pre-frame something, for example, you know, to increase retention. I knew with the company I was partnered with at the time, if they joined this 16-week challenge, then the retention rate of keeping that client went up to 92%. And I think anyone would give their right arm to have 92% retention on clients, right? Because that's someone who is like continuing to order from you. You don't have to go out and get another client. They're likely going to refer people because now they're in it long enough. They have enough skin in the game and they're in it long enough. They've committed for long enough that they are going to have the results and people are going to ask them how. And so referrals are the best type of clients because, you know, the know, like, and trust factor transfers. They're like, I don't care who you went with, how much it costs. I want the results that you had or whatever, you know, as related to what you're selling. So one of the things that I did is I started to use neurolinguistics and saying, if you called me, like I wanted them to join this 16-week challenge. If you called me at the end of the 16-week challenge and you shared with me your excitement about your results, what would that sound like? And they would tell me. And so what that does is allow them to tap into the state of being that they've already achieved their goal and they could picture it. So what you want to do is create a picture in the client's mind of already getting to the end destination, because what are they picturing prior to talking to you? All the times that they've failed, right? And so that becomes an objection, like, oh, I've tried everything before, or, oh, it's too expensive. Like, if they viewed you as the person to help them transform and they can see it for themselves, they will pay anything to get there, for you to get them out of this painful part that they're in. They don't know why they can't succeed. They've tried a million things before. So it's really having a different conversation and creating, what do you want them to do? And it's really identifying this, like ahead of having these sales, like time out. Like on your process of having these sales conversations, like stop having sales conversations until you figure out what you want their end destination to be. I knew I wanted them to be in a 16-week challenge. I knew what their result wanted to be. How can I build that into what I'm saying to them that they can hear themselves having the results? So not only will your objections go down, your retention goes up. And, you know, they're now on board because they can see themselves getting there. You created that picture in their mind by helping them create that picture in their mind. They're the ones who came up with that data of what it would sound like when they got there. Or even say if you were selling houses, what would it feel like, you know, waking up that first morning in this new house? Like, people buy it due to the vision. Like, that's why houses convert so much better if it's staged, because all of a sudden it's got furniture and they can see themselves sitting on the couch, right? So how can you create this for whatever it is that you're selling? How can you create a vision in their mind and help them create that? It's by asking a better question.
That's on point. Yeah, I think we're definitely there. How you communicate that and frame it. So a couple questions from the comments, and keep them coming. We'll address a couple right now. So like, what if they say, I don't have the budget for your product? How have you pre-framed it, or how do you respond to it either way?
Yeah, exactly. So even when it's like, when I'm asking, like, how is this the right time for you? That is starting to chip away at a pricing objection as well, because they're trying to figure out in their own mind of how to afford that. And we go over this in the class a lot more, but as far as like reframing objections, like I ask a question back to them, like, you know, how is it that you feel that you're not worth the transformation? That, you know, like it's not, people aren't lacking resources, they're lacking resourcefulness. Like, so if somebody really taps into that emotional place of wanting to transform, then they will move mountains. They will sell something. Like, I've had, you know, clients sell something to work with me or something like that. And it's because the transformation was enough that, you know, there was no other way. Like, what are they missing out on if they don't work with you? Right? So it's reframing that question in their mind of even saying like, it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. Like, why are you viewing it as expensive? Like, it's really getting into a language pattern that shifts. And that's what neurolinguistics programming is it's not changing the person's perspective, but it's loosening their grip of their model of the world. So they have this like perspective and it's like, no, I can't afford it. And that may be in their mind prior to talking with you. Yeah. So how can you loosen the grip on that? And it is just having a different language pattern with them of why they feel that, you know, they're not worth investing in, or why they feel that service is expensive. It's phrasing it back to them, because usually a money objection is not the actual problem. You know, it's actually that you have not influenced their will enough. So if a lack of value built into that is usually why you're getting money objections. And do you feel your service is too expensive? Because you could be projecting that onto people. So basically, if you're getting that objection all the time, really break down for yourself how you feel about it. Would you buy it? Are you so I've even talked to people who did not want to invest in business coaches or something like that, but then they wanted to sell their coaching products and services. Where is that a conflict? Is that if they won't even invest that in themselves, why are people going to buy their products and services? Right? Yeah. So it's really inauthentic. They're being inauthentic because they're asking for what they will not do themselves. So it's really having enough introspection for yourself of, do I have my own pricing objections? Do I feel that this is too expensive? Like, I'm pitching a $50,000 product. It's probably too expensive for people. Is that underlying the surface? And reject that if that's not true for you. But just kind of allow this for an opportunity to see how you feel about it. Is it too expensive? And if so, if you feel that way, like, how could it not be? So just really like do some work on how you're feeling about your product and service, and are you building in the value?
Good. So we're on kind of the home stretch. We have about 10 minutes left. I mean, we could keep on going. Honestly, I'm learning a lot. I'm taking notes. I hope you guys are engaged in getting value for sure. So we've referenced it a couple times in the video, but let's maybe make it a little bit more clear. And then we'll get to the last question about your e-course. So from my understanding, it's starting tomorrow. You'll also be recording it if that didn't work. However, it's going to be, I mean, you're giving actually our audience a huge discount at $97, which I think it's typically like $297. And like I said, I've already signed up for it, so I'm excited to take away. And even though I've been through this training, I know that you can always sharpen your skills and renew your patterns. That's just life, right? You need to hear things multiple times to retain it. But I'm assuming, can you maybe elaborate? Is this course going to go more in depth on this? What else could they expect to gain from it?
Yeah, absolutely. The course is more in depth because we actually create workbooks and things like that to really work through, like, who is your ideal client? Like, who are we serving? Like, what would light you up? Like, delving into, like in module 2, we're having you delve into basically your own limiting beliefs, like the questions that I was just asking you. Like, it's having you break down some of your own barriers of things that you keep hearing all the time could be your own limiting beliefs. So let's uncover those. Like, let's bring them from the unconscious awareness up to the surface of awareness, and how can we transform those? And then on the last module, we are covering how to overcome any objection. So it is using actual Neuro Linguistics Programming to fill in the sentences of reframing those sentences. So for example, for the money objection, there's like a million different ways that you can end up rephrasing it, but what one works for you. And it's really getting into how to create a new sentence that would be the response that almost like immediately rephrases it in the client's mind because you asked a different question. Instead of like, a lot of people, when they get objections, they ignore objections because they're like, oh, I don't know what to say. But what if you could handle objections, any of them that came up, with ease because you have a different question to ask back to the client? And sometimes it stumps them because they're not used to hearing that. They're used to someone trying to drive through that objection, and then it creates this wall of resistance, right? Well, what if you asked a different question that they're having to ask it in their mind, and it kind of like stumps them of like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So it's really starting to use these modalities, very powerful in language patterns. Like you can not only use these skills in sales, but you can use them in your relationships as well, as far as like reframing things with your partner. And all of a sudden you have a new relationship because you're asking a different question. So I always have the belief that the amount of transformation is by the quality of the question that you're asking. And so we're going to be diving deep into this course on that. We are teaching it live. And yes, we are giving Drew's audience $200 off right now for that. We are starting class tomorrow. It is 5 o'clock PST. If you cannot show up, you own the course. So you can study at your own pace. You own it for as long as you and I are living. And we host it on a website where you can just study at your own pace. There's also a ton of bonus videos. Michael is one of the people teaching the class with me, and he used to be the 30-second pitch doctor. So he will teach you how to articulate what you're doing in a 30-second elevator ride, right? So how do you articulate it and you don't come off as like, I'm trying to sell to you anything. It gets the question asked to you like, oh, tell me more. Like, how would you feel if that changed, of like you pursuing versus people coming to you and saying like, you know, and it also has bonus video from me. I'm going to take a tour with you on social media and show you what's working on social media. How do you take this message out there and have people reach out to you and slide into your DMs asking you to tell me more about what you do? Like, how are these influencers doing that, pulling that off? And they're having like more sales and more connections and building relationships because of what messaging they are putting out there. They learned the voice of their ideal client, and every day they put out a message speaking to that ideal client. And that is like a fish hook. It just draws people in. And lastly, the other bonus video is Anna, one of our also master practitioners in NLP, goes over deep dive into objections. So we'll be teaching it on the class, but she dives even deeper into it because that is a source of contention usually for people that are in sales. So definitely we'll be covering more into that. I highly suggest you jump into the class. If you found any value from today, it's going to be 10x that on the class. So Drew has the link to the class. Just drop a comment below if you want in, and we will be so excited to teach to you. If you can't make the live classes, like I said, you'll own the class. This turns into videos, and it is the opportunity for you guys to be live with us so we can answer your questions live. So it's such a great thing. Yeah, thanks, Drew, for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, definitely a lot of takeaways today. If you missed a part of this, just joined, we will be creating on our YouTube page and reposting this shortly. A shout out to Jorge over at Record Space Studios. He's been the one with the graphics and coordinating all this. If you have a similar interest, he has a wide variety of product offerings. If you've ever seen any of our intro videos for Uncommon Entrepreneurs, it's him and his company that have done that. So yeah, for sure. It's been a great hour. I mean, it's just zoomed by. I'm sure everybody on this call is felt that there was a lot of value transferred if that was alone, and so forth. So I think the class adds a lot of value. I mean, what a skill set to be able to communicate, have better relationships. But even if it was just this, I mean, I think you guys are going to walk away feeling like you got your value. So any parting thoughts in the last minute or two? Just maybe one other thing that you think could be good to kind of like cover and maybe client retention related or whatever.
Yeah, I just think is building in confidence to you as a salesperson. You know, people need your products and services. People need what you do. People need your uniqueness. Like, have the bravery to go out there and share that with the world, and, you know, refine your skills. Like, take this time to sharpen your knife and be the best person out there doing what you do. And if it is just, you know, attending these lunch and learns with Drew every week, like, that is going to add so much more to your skills. If you decide to take the next step, then that is what you need to take the next step for you. But it is like, don't sit in your house and be the best kept secret anymore. Like, get your message out there, have the bravery to do it, the confidence, and, you know, you've got this. Like, you can do it.
Love it. Powerful concept. I just put in the link our YouTube channel page, where if you like and follow, we'll be putting this video. Again, we'll be doing these live streams. Next week, we'll do 2 or 3 of them. There's just been an influx of just very knowledgeable people, that a lot of which are based in Puerto Rico, that are have a message to share that can educate and teach and give them, you know, a perspective to really get in front of an active audience. So appreciate everybody who's contributed, who's been a part of this. I know you've gotten value if you were locked in. And until next time, we'll sign off. But thank you for joining us, Lisa. It's been a blessing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. See you guys soon.